A few little tips around Microsoft Word here. One of the things that I like to turn on is my rulers and stuff. So if you go into View, you can turn your rulers on and off. You can also turn on like the grid lines and stuff if you so chose to. If you're trying to line something up, that's a good way to do that. I will say that like Microsoft Word is not a page layout program. It is not a program designed for creating artistic pieces of artwork. Can it do certain basic tasks? Of course, just like every program. But just like you'd use like, well, they call it using like medicine, like off-label. This is like the off-label usage of Microsoft Word. Like making a poster is not Microsoft Word is not the proper program for making a poster, but it allows you to learn a few different things about text boxes, coloring, making font changes and choices, all that kind of stuff. So it is a good little starting point for us here. So what we're gonna do is, now that we have our basic document, because we don't wanna just type in this box, we don't wanna just like, oh, here's our words, but now we can't move those around very well because they're just stuck to the page. So we wanna create a text box. So we wanna go into our Insert tab here, and we want to insert ourselves a text box. Okay, this text box allows us, just use the simple text box, the first one here. It allows us now a whole bunch of different options in terms of like obviously changing the text. So in this case, we'll put classroom rules. And if you want, you can do it all caps. Okay. We've got our little text box here. It allows us to move it around fairly well in terms of where we want to place it and stuff. What I don't love about Microsoft Word, and maybe it's just because I don't know how to do it, but it doesn't have a lot of like alignment help in terms of where things are sitting on the page. It doesn't like, you can kind of tell that it wants to like center it. If you're going slowly, it'll kind of stop in certain spots. So to me, this feels like the center, but it's not really like really obvious. When you're using like an actual design program, it will have like little cursors and rulers and different things you can set up so you know where the middle of the page is. But for now, we're just gonna go with it. Now, one little trick for this, if you don't know where the middle of the page is, you can actually extend your text box all the way to the edges. And then you can simply center the text within that box. And now you kind of fake have a center, right? So I can go back to my home tab, I can center this text. So based on where this box is placed, it will center the text. Now, if we're gonna make a border around the box, well, that doesn't help us. So then we would have to make this smaller again, and it keeps this in the center. So again, you can do it based on like the math aspect of it. If I'm always 1.5 inches in on that side, and then I kind of come 1.5 inches in on this side, it's gonna get us close, but it's not a design program. It's not going to be very perfect, and I'm certainly not going to get a ruler out and measure your designs. But regardless, do your best, okay? So we can have some fun with this. We want to select our text. In order to make any changes to this text, we need to highlight it, and then in the Home tab, we can adjust the font. So maybe I want to have like a big, thick font. I can go all the way up to 72 point. In terms of the basic ones. I also could type in here, if I wanted to make it bigger than this, say I wanted to make it like 200, some giant size, I can do that, okay? What's happening though is it's getting completely cut off. So it does not fit in this box, so I would need to make this text box bigger. Now in this case, 200 is clearly too big. That's not gonna work. So I need to make it a little bit bigger, or a little bit smaller than that. So I'm gonna bring it down to, let's say 72 to start with, and then I'll make my box a little bit wider. Nope, classroom rules still does not fit in that size. So let's go, try this again, bring this down even more. 48, that'll work. Okay, so we have our classroom rules title. Now, how you wanna set it up, and for that matter, if you want it to be nice and gigantic, feel free to ditch the room part. You can just say class rules, right? Or you could even say lab rules. That's even shorter. If we do lab rules, that's even better. Now we can really bump the size of this font up and have it nice and big. Okay? So there's that. If you wanted to change the color of the font, so you would just select this whole thing. Now, if you want to select a single word, You double click on that word, it will select just that word. Same works over here, double click, it auto selects the word. If you click and hold, it'll select the whole set of words. Now you sometimes, when you have things selected, different options show up. So you can have these font options are here as well. So you can have the color of the font. You can also access the color of the font again from the home tab here. So if you click on this colored A, it will select that was the last color used. If you click on the drop down box here, you now have all the various different colors available to choose from. So maybe you want, I'm going to stick with the red, I think. Maroon colored red. Okay. The border around your box is controlled in the shape format. If you notice, when I don't have the box selected, shape format disappears. If I have the box selected, shape format appears, and I can now make a bunch of different changes to this shape. So if I wanted, I could fill the shape with another color. Maybe I want to go with a light contrasting color somewhere here for funsies, just something so that it sets off the box. I can also change the outline color of the box. Maybe I want to stick with that same red. Also in the shape outline, I can change the weight of the outline. I can do more lines if I want. It brings up another set of options, so I could have, oh, what do I want to do here? So many options. I can do all kinds of different things. I think I'm going to stick with what I've got here and just go with a nice, thicker, bold line. Okay? So you have fun with it. It's your set of lab rules that you're creating. The other option to fix that I want to go over is in the design tab. At the far right-hand side here, we have the page color and page border setup. So if I go into page color, I can set the page color. Again, I don't want anything too crazy. You're not going to want like a really dark background with dark text. That's just not going to look good, and it's certainly not going to be able to be seen very well. Similarly, you could go into like other fill effects. There's gradients, there's textures, there's patterns, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. Be careful what you choose. If all of a sudden you go into this texture thing, well, first off, that looks a little weird, but secondarily, like, you need to make sure that you don't have texture over top of texture over top of texture. It's the same thing I tell my daughter in the mornings. I'm like, hey, you can have crazy on the bottom, but you can't have crazy on the top. You got to pick one or the other, right? So don't wear your like crazy patterned pink pants on the bottom and then a wild flowery shirt on the top. Not going to fly, right? So if you want to have a crazy background, fine. That's a design choice. That's your choice. But then you need to have nice, bold font and text boxes. The text boxes cannot be transparent then, or it will make it nearly impossible for you to read the content inside those text boxes. Okay, so I prefer things to be a little more in order, a little more traditional, shall we say. So I am going to not have this background. I do not want to fill this. So I'm going to go back. Okay, but you do have to have a border. As per the assignment, you need to have some kind of border around the outside. You can have a dotted line. You can have a full, like a straight line. Bring that around. If you want, you can do some shadowing, whatever else you want to do, but bring in your border so you have that. And then I would advise you to do some sort of a page color, but don't have it be crazy, right? Like we want to make it nice and neutral so it's not distracting from whatever design you already have, right? If you get too dark of a background, you're going to need to use white font. That is fine. You can use white as a text color, but I would advise against it. I would stick to these kind of pastel first row of colors for a background color. If you're going to do a background color, you don't have to do a background color if you don't want to. So I'm going to stick with no color. Actually, no, and I'm going to do a color. Let's go. What kind of matches with this? It's dark teal. Let's go in there. Okay. So from there, you're going to basically create your 5 rules. These 5 rules are your own rules. So it could be like always save your work, no running in class, no open beverages, whatever rules you want to come up with for your 5 lab rules. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at there for today. We will get into how to make the graphics for your rules, because each one of your 5 rules is going to need to have a graphic that goes along with it to kind of represent whatever your rule is. So keep that in mind, leave yourself some space, but make yourself 5 more text boxes and get going with the rest of this project. I'll walk around and help where I can. And yeah, that's it for this first phase of the first assignment. One quick thing to remember before you finish your stuff, because this is Microsoft Word, it will not save itself automatically. You need to make sure that you go in here. If I tried to close this, it would warn me. Thankfully, it's smart enough to say, hey, genius, you didn't save your work. Would you like to save? And I would be able to save this. But more importantly, and probably more smartly, you should either use the save button at the top, the little button here that says save, or the shortcut for saving is Control S on the keyboard, and that's going to bring up your save function. It's going to automatically save for you. But again, it does have that reminder, so when you close it, if you haven't saved it, it's going to save for you, and then you are off to the races with regards to that. Hopefully that all works for you, and yeah, this is the basics of this first part of Assignment 1.